Hi, and welcome to another episode of Historical Markers. We're continuing looking at Crest Road. I always find it interesting to see how Illinois is involved in things, being that I'm from Illinois. And so I just thought this would be a good place to do an introduction. So let's see what else is happening on Crest Road. This marker's for Walthall's Brigade. This brigade arrived on Missionary Ridge from Lookout Mountain in the morning of November 25th and took position as the right brigade of the division. When the right of Baird's division of Union troops gained the crest of the ridge to the south of this, Moore's and Jackson's brigades of Cheatham's division were hurriedly thrown across the ridge and down its eastern slope in an unsuccessful attempt to check Baird's advance northward. At this juncture, Walthall's brigade was formed across the ridge at this point at right angles to its former line under a brisk fire and held its position. The fire was kept up until after dark. Soon after 8 o'clock, the brigade withdrew under orders, marching by way of the railroad bridge toward Chickamauga Station. And this area was where the right of Cheatham's division was, November 25th, 1863. And right beside it is where the left of Walker's division was, November 24th and 25th of 1863. Walker's division, Brigadier General States Rights Gist. The artillery battalion, commanded by Major Robert Martin, was composed of the Missouri Battery, Captain Hiram M. Bledsoe, South Carolina Battery, Captain T.B. Ferguson, and the Georgia Battery, Captain Evan P. Howell. From November 14th to the 23rd, this division occupied the line of works from Chattanooga Creek westward to the base of Lookout. The evening of November 23rd, the division was moved to the right and posted on Missionary Ridge, with its right about a half a mile south of the tunnel. During the engagement of the 25th, Manny's brigade was dispatched to the support of General Claiborne at Tunnel Hill and took part in the final repulse of the Union forces at that point. At dusk, the division withdrew in the direction of Chickamauga Station. Bledsoe's Missouri Battery. The battery came into action on the crown of the ridge in rear of this position on the morning of November 25th, 1863, and opened fire on the advancing lines of the enemy assaulting Tunnel Hill north of the tunnel, rendering material service in checking and repulsing his advance south of that point. In the afternoon, when the Army of the Cumberland advanced against the center of the ridge south of this point, the battery opened with all its guns on the attacking lines with an enfilading fire of open view and extended range. No direct assault was made on this position during the day. The battery with its division retired under orders after dark to Chickamauga Station. No losses reported. Ferguson's South Carolina Battery. The battery came into position on the crest of the ridge in rear of this point on the morning of the 25th, November 1863, and under the direction of General Hardee, rendered efficient service during the day in shelling the flank of the assaulting lines of the enemy, first in their advance against the ridge at the tunnel and north of it, and later against the left flank of the Army of the Cumberland in its attack south of this point about 4 p.m. The battery with its division retired after dark across the Chickamauga. No losses were reported. Gist's Brigade. This brigade had been stationed with its division in the trenches westward of Chattanooga Creek to the base of Lookout Mountain from November 14th to the 23rd. On the afternoon of that day, the enemy moved against Orchard Knob Line and carried it. Walker's division was therefore ordered to proceed to the right and take position on Missionary Ridge as an observing force and to resist any attempt to turn the right. The brigade took position at this point with Wilson's brigade on its right and Manny's on its left until this date. The crest of Missionary Ridge had been unoccupied in force, the lines having been at its foot east of Chattanooga and across the plain to Lookout Mountain south of it. During the engagement at Tunnel Hill on the 25th, the brigade was not attacked. It supported artillery on the high knoll with its right, which was in action at long range upon each advance of the enemy against Tunnel Hill. After dark, it withdrew in order following the troops about Tunnel Hill and crossing the Chickamauga at the railroad bridges. Here is Wilson's Brigade, Walker's Division, Hardee's Corps, Colonel J. Cooper Nisbet. This brigade, with its division, had occupied the entrenchments from Chattanooga Creek westward to the foot of Lookout Mountain from November 14th to the 23rd. On the afternoon of the latter day, Walker's division was ordered to the right and posted on the summit of Missionary Ridge, Wilson's brigade being on the right, Gist's in the center, and Manny's on the left. These were the first troops to occupy Missionary Ridge, the lines of Bragg's army having previously been established at the foot of the ridge east of Chattanooga and across the plain to Lookout Mountain south of it. This movement of Walker's division was caused by the Union advance upon the Orchard Knob line and was held there as an observing force against any attempt to turn the right. During the engagement of the 25th at Tunnel Hill, Wilson's brigade was not attacked in front. Its artillery was in action, rendering material service, and its lines were at times subjected to a long-range skirmish fire. It withdrew in order after dark, following the troops about Tunnel Hill. This is the CSA right of Walker's division from November 24th and 25th of 1863. This is the Van den Corput's Georgia battery. The battery was engaged on Point Lookout on the 24th, and at 3:45 p.m. retired to the base of the mountain and with its battalion and division crossed the Chattanooga Creek in the early hours of the 25th and came into action on the crest of the ridge in rear of this position about 10 a.m., having a long-range enfilading fire on the advancing lines of the enemy assaulting the west face of Tunnel Hill and continuing a rapid fire with marked effect till the effort to take that point was abandoned. At 7:30 p.m., the battery with its division retired across the Chickamauga. Pettus's Brigade. During the night of November 24th, Pettus's Brigade was ordered from Lookout Mountain to the extreme right on Missionary Ridge, reaching Tunnel Hill about 10 a.m. of the 25th. It took position south of the tunnel, overlooking the railroad at the foot of the slope and on its front. Its right connected with Cumming's brigade, and its left joined Wilson's brigade of Walker's division. From this position, it engaged the right of the enemy in his several assaults. Casualties in this position, there were 8 killed, 55 wounded, and 8 were missing. Baxter's Tennessee Battery. The battery with its battalion withdrew from its position west of Chattanooga Creek during the night of the 24th, and under the direction of General Hardee came into action on the crest of the elevation in rear of this position about 10 a.m. of the 25th, engaging a battery of the enemy located in the edge of the clearing northwest of this ground, and about 2 p.m. enfiladed the Federal lines assaulting Tunnel Hill and continued the action till the effort to possess that point was abandoned. At 7:30 p.m., the battery retired with its battalion and division under orders across the Chickamauga. No losses reported. Okay, here we have a couple of cannons up on top of the hill. And the marker is way up there, and I am unable to read it from here. I do know it says Rowan's, Georgia, something or other. But from here, I am unable to read what it says. This marker is Cumming's Brigade. At 2:30 a.m. of the 25th, the brigade was ordered from the line works west of Chickamauga Creek to the right, reaching Tunnel Hill. At 9:30 a.m., taking position with its right over the tunnel, the left connecting with Pettus's Brigade. At the opening of the battle, the 35th and 56th Georgia regiments descended the ridge and, advancing to the glass house, engaged the enemy skirmishers. Upon returning to the ridge, 4 companies were sent to burn that house. The regiments of the brigade were then sent in succession to General Cleburne's line at the top of Tunnel Hill and became severely engaged, finally taking part in 3 charges wherein 2 colors and many prisoners were captured by the brigade. Toward sunset, it moved rapidly toward the left, but finding the ridge carried at the center, the brigade joined the retreat toward Chickamauga Station. Casualties killed were 17, wounded 156, and missing 30. Stevenson's division, the artillery battalion, commanded by Captain William W. Carnes, consisted of the Tennessee Battery, Captain Edmund D. Baxter, Carnes's Tennessee Battery, Georgia Battery, Captain Max Van Den Corput, and the 30 Maryland Georgia Battery, Captain John B. Rowan. Stevenson's division moved from Lookout Mountain during the night on November 24th, reaching this vicinity soon after sunrise of the 25th. Brown's brigade was posted to the left of General Claiborne, its left resting over the tunnel. Cumming's right rested on the tunnel, and Pettus was on the left of Cumming's. All assisted in repulsing the attacks of the Union forces during the 25th, and during the night withdrew toward Chickamauga Station. Calvert's Arkansas Battery. The battery occupied a position immediately over the tunnel in rear of this point during the fighting of the morning, and with its rapid and accurate firing aided in keeping its near front clear of the enemy. About noon, by order of General Claiborne, the battery moved to the right to Tunnel Hill, where Lieutenant Key was placed in command of all the artillery at that point. The battery was commended by General Claiborne in his official report for courage and efficiency. The battery retired with its division unmolested after dark to Chickamauga Station. No casualties reported. Howell's Georgia Battery, a section of 8-pounder guns under Lieutenant R.T. Gibson at the Craven's house on the slope of Lookout Mountain, November 24, 1863, was abandoned for want of horses to remove the guns, caused by the overwhelming force and rapid advance of the enemy. The other section, having been withdrawn from the top of Lookout Mountain after several changes, came into position on this ground on the morning of the 25th, November 63, and at intervals opened on the enemy, aiding in driving back the right of their line, advancing across the open fields, and compelling that portion of the storming column advancing on Tunnel Hill to the right to seek cover behind the intervening spur of the ridge. After dark, the battery with its division withdrew to Chickamauga Station. Casualties, 2 guns on the slope of Lookout Mountain. No men, guns, or horses from this section. And these are the markers in the Pennsylvania Reservation for the Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park, Department of the Interior. This is the 73rd Regiment, Pennsylvania Veteran Volunteers, 1st Brigade, 2nd Division, and 11th Army Corps. You can read the text there. Scroll up so you can see the top of it. This marker is for Bushbecks Brigade, Steinwer's Division, Howard's Corps, Colonel Adolphus Bushbeck. He had the 33rd New Jersey, the 134th New York, the 154th New York, the 27th Pennsylvania, and the 23rd Pennsylvania. On the morning of the 24th, the 33rd New Jersey, 27th and 73rd Pennsylvania joined General Sherman near the mouth of the Chickamauga Creek. The 2 New York regiments marched with the 11th Corps on the 25th to Boyce's Station on the Chickamauga. The 3 regiments, reporting to Sherman, supported the right of Ewing's division and were sharply engaged from 10 o'clock until 3:30 p.m. of the 25th in the vicinity of the Glass House and the slopes near it. The 27th Pennsylvania, with one company of the 73rd, charged to the summit of Tunnel Hill, the rest of the 73rd holding the position to which it had been charged at the Glass House, in which charge Lieutenant Colonel J.B. Taft of the 143rd New York, temporarily in command of the 73rd Pennsylvania, was killed. There were killed 26, wounded 114, captured or missing 107. The Loomis Brigade, Ewing's Division, 15th Corps, Colonel John M. Loomis. He had the 26th Illinois, 9th Illinois, 12th Indiana, 100th Indiana. The brigade at 10:30 a.m. took position to the right of Corse's brigade and cooperated with it till the termination of its assault. About 1 p.m., with its left on the Tunnel Hill Road north of the Glass House and supported by Bushbecks Brigade, it moved toward the mouth of the tunnel, its skirmishes carrying the position about the Glass House and part of the main line reaching the railroad. The 27th and 73rd Pennsylvania of Bushbecks Brigade then advanced to Loomis's left and pushed the Confederates back to their works over the tunnel. Matthey's brigade next came up on Loomis's left and charged to the summit of the ridge, where it formed on the right and left of the 27th Pennsylvania that had preceded it, followed by Rowan's brigade. The entire force was finally repulsed by charges from the crest and a flank movement from the tunnel. At 4 p.m., the brigade was withdrawn. This is Illinois, 90th Infantry, 1st Brigade, Loomis, 4th Division, Ewing, 15th Army Corps, Blair. This marker says, commanded by Colonel Timothy O'Meara, killed, Lieutenant Colonel Owen Stewart, passed to the right of this point about 1 p.m., November 25th, 1863, and became engaged about 220 yards southwest between this and the railroad. This is Illinois, the 26th Infantry, 1st Brigade, Loomis, 4th Division, Ewing, and 15th Army Corps, Blair. Commanded by Lieutenant Colonel R.A. Gilmore, passed to the right of this point about 1 p.m., November 25th, 1863, and became engaged on or near the railroad southwest of this. The loss was 93. So that was another episode of Historical Markers on Crest Road. There are many more markers. Let's see what else there is to see on Crest Road. And I hope you like this series, and like, subscribe, and let us know what you think.